Have you been taking dozens of Spanish classes, but you're still struggling with speaking and understanding Spanish? No eres el único. Millions of people learning languages feel this way all the time. Why does that happen? And how can you finally have success with your Spanish classes and speak Spanish fluently? Let's find out together. I am Juan, Spring Spanish teacher, and here is the first reason why you're still struggling. Número 1. No estás escuchando suficiente español. If you're taking Spanish classes with a tutor, that might be the only time you really hear Spanish. And even during your class, your teacher might be giving a lot of grammar explanation in your mother tongue. That's fine, of course, but it is not enough to really learn and understand Spanish. Necesitas que tus oídos se acostumbren al idioma escuchándolo todo lo que puedas. It'll help you with listening comprehension and you'll absorb a lot of the structure subconsciously. You will find lots of material to listen to online. I will give you many resources you can use in the reason number 4. Número 2. No estás hablando suficiente español. You probably don't do nearly enough of that either in your language classes, especially if you share the class with a lot of other students. So, if the only time you really speak Spanish is this... Bien, señor Juan, ¿cómo se dice apple en español? Se dice manzana, profesor. Well, no wonder you still can't speak that much. You need to practice a lot more speaking Spanish every week to get fluency. No necesitas hacer eso si estás empezando a aprender español. Como principiante es suficiente escuchar bastante. But once you are a bit more advanced and start to understand more Spanish and know many Spanish chunks yourself, es momento de poner eso en práctica. Find yourself some native Spanish speakers that you can practice Spanish with. Start slow. Just a few minutes of conversation are enough to begin with. También puedes empezar mandando mensajes en español o hablando contigo mismo. There are tons of places and apps to practice your Spanish speaking with. You can also join our inner circle speaking rooms to talk about topics you're interested in. To find more, click the link in the description. Número 3. Te estás enfocando demasiado en gramática. In traditional language classes, the teacher is usually focusing a lot on grammar explanations and grammar drills, verb conjugations and all that boring stuff. Y aunque esto te puede ayudar a aprobar un examen, el problema es que no importa que tanta gramática aprendas, if you have to think of all that grammar while you're trying to string together sentences in conversations, you'll always still sound like this. Hola, qué sorpresa. ¿Qué haces en Buenos Aires? Estoy de vacaciones. If you really want to speak fluent Spanish, you need to avoid having to think about grammar all the time while speaking, which is possible if you learn chunks instead. That is, word combinations you hear native speakers use, like qué sorpresa or cómo se dice. Lo mejor de todo es que puedes descubrir estos chunks si escuchas lo suficiente. And did you know that we create flashcards with chunks for each one of our videos in the Spring Spanish Circle? Join us. Click in the description. Número 4. No estás expuesto al español diariamente fuera de tus clases. Many students go to their weekly Spanish class for 1 or 2 hours of Spanish y después van a sus casas y olvidan el idioma hasta la siguiente semana. When they quickly do their homework before class, barely get by and then again neglect it for a week. That is exactly how some people study Spanish for years without getting anywhere. It doesn't work because, well, You just don't get enough exposure to Spanish this way. You have to do the heavy lifting yourself outside of class. Your brain needs consistent, preferably daily, exposure to Spanish to really get used to the language and absorb the structure. You probably won't need to take Spanish classes daily, but you can ver nuestros videos de YouTube, usar flashcards para aprender español, como lo hacemos en nuestro Inner Circle, escuchar podcast o música, revisar el material de nuestras lecciones semanales. Even a little bit of daily exposure can do wonders, so make sure to incorporate this in your routine. It will barely cost you any time. So what do we at Spring Spanish recommend to be successful at learning Spanish? Here are our top tips. You can use them together with your classes or just learn Spanish entirely with us. Escucha español 15 minutos diarios. Memoriza con flashcards los chunks que descubras diariamente. Revisa el material de tus clases de idiomas diariamente. Y habla español 1 o 2 veces a la semana. If you don't get enough speaking practice in your Spanish classes, you can try to find affordable one-on-one tutors online or in our Spring Spanish Academy. These are the 4 steps that all our students follow to become fluent in Spanish. But how exactly can you put these 4 steps into practice? Well, in the next part of this lesson, I will go over each step in detail, and you will find out how to implement these steps today, so that you can start speaking fluent Spanish in a matter of months rather than years. Click on the image on the screen to learn more about step 1.